couple years ago I posted video of how to build an ottavino, which is a miniature harpsichord. It was very popular and several viewers wanted to purchase it, so now I'm building 3 more of them. These new instruments have a different design called a spinet, resulting in a triangular shaped case. In this video I'm going to demonstrate how to do the fancy veneer work or marquetry. One of the 3 has a design that's very similar to my first marquetry tutorial, so I'm not going to spend much time on this one, other than showing how the pattern is at an angle to accommodate the triangular lid. The other 2 have this design. I'm not quite sure what to call it. I've seen patterns like it on English furniture by Sheraton and Chippendale. The side and top panels have a central field surrounded by a black stripe of veneer and crossbanding with rounded over corners. In the first part of this video I'm going to show you how to make these veneered panels, and in the second part I'll demonstrate how to make this floral themed pictorial marquetry. We'll build the panels from the inside out, starting with the field. On the substrate, which is a high quality plywood, I've marked out where the field should be, leaving room for the molding, the crossbanding, and the black stripe. This veneer is tiger stripe maple. It's cut a little oversized to be trimmed later. Some painter's tape keeps it from creeping, a piece of waxed paper keeps the glue where it belongs, a few pieces of paper towel and a thick wooden caul help distribute the pressure when the clamps are applied. After about 10 to 15 minutes, take it out of the clamps. The glue has set but hasn't cured yet, and now we can trim the field to its final dimensions using the marks made earlier. Before the glue cures, we also need to cut out the quarter circles in each corner. The circle template is the most accurate way to cut these curves. Here I'm using a small dowel turned to the desired radius to mark and cut the curves. A sharp number 11 blade or X-Acto knife cuts through the veneer easily. Scrape off any excess glue, then put it all back under clamps for at least an hour. The next step is the black dyed veneer stripe, starting with the corners. Using the same circle template, mark and cut the outside radius using sandpaper for a tight fit. I've tried dyeing my own veneer, but the dye just doesn't penetrate very far, and as soon as you sand it, the color disappears. It's much better to purchase this stuff. Once again, we're going to make it oversized, then clamp it for 10 to 15 minutes and trim it before the glue cures. The black stripe is 3/32 of an inch wide, so mark and cut the inside radius that much smaller. On a circle template, that means a circle whose diameter is 3/16 of an inch less. The straight parts of the black stripe veneer are a piece of cake. Regular wood glue or even a PVA glue like Elmer's is fine. Some painter's tape is all the clamping pressure required. Glue them on extra long and then trim to the final size. Here's what we have so far. The last step is the crossbanding. The straight parts here are 3/8 of an inch, but in the corners we need to start with some wider pieces. And to make the stripes book matched, cut out triangles from adjacent strips of veneer like this. On this project I'm using Quarter-Sawn Bubinga. Any wood with a strong grain pattern would look great. Quarter-sawn walnut is a good choice too, but my trim molding is walnut and I wanted a little more contrast. Plus the red tint of Bubinga just glows. The matching pairs have been glued together, the corner rounded over, and it's glued into place. Some 45-degree marks help with alignment so that the corner is truly in the corner. As before, it's made a little oversized and then trimmed to final dimensions before the glue fully cures. The straightaways here are a slam dunk. Larger segments can be butted together if necessary, and the splice will never show. The lid on this project is made with the same techniques, except there are some funky angles to work out in the corners. This piece of Camphor Burl veneer might be the most beautiful piece of wood I've ever worked with. To find the part I want to use for the lid, I made this little window out of paper. Here's a valuable tip before sanding and finishing. Sanding the black dyed veneer produces a fine dust that can get into the pores of a lighter colored wood like this maple and ruin the project. So before sanding, apply a coat of sanding sealer. I'm using shellac for the finish, and I'm going to apply it before the case is assembled because otherwise the trim molding is going to get in the way. Also, don't forget to veneer the other side of the plywood to keep it stable. In the rest of this video, I'll show you how to make pictorial marquetry like this floral arrangement. The secret to making these flowers look 3D is with a technique called sand shading. I made these petals out of maple veneer, and I'm dunking them into sand heated up on the stovetop. The sand at the bottom is hotter than the surface, and so it scorches the wood on a smooth gradient from dark to light. The first step is to glue a pattern onto a piece of scrap veneer. Lots of free patterns are available on the web as clip art. There are a couple ways of proceeding. This technique is called the window method, and it starts by cutting out one of the petals, then using it as a window to cut the sand-shaded veneer. That little piece gets held in place with some Elmer's glue rubbed into the joints, and then the next window gets cut out. The veneer can be adjusted so the sand shading is just right. I usually work from the outside in, doing it one petal at a time. This is a long and laborious process. You're actually cutting each petal out twice, but the results can be spectacular. For the brightly colored parts, I'm using holly veneer, which is a lighter shade than the maple. There is an easier way to do this, and that's to cut out the petals first, then sand shade each petal and put them back together. This way you only have to cut out each petal once, but I don't think the end result looks quite as good. Some veneer tape holds the flower heads together, and here I'm trying to figure out where each flower should go. Then I'll trace around each flower and cut out an opening in the field. The flower heads are set into the field with a little glue, then more veneer tape. I made the stems from green dyed veneer and traced around them to set them into place. With all the layers of tape on the outside, you'll have to flip it over to see what you're doing. Smaller stems and then leaves are added the same way. A little masking tape holds them still so you can trace around them. Now comes the fun part, removing all that veneer tape and seeing how it came out. In a previous video, I suggested using steel wool to remove bits of tape and glue. Do not use steel wool on a light colored wood like this when it's wet. It will leave horrible stains that are almost impossible to get out. That's a lot of work, but wow, so worth the effort. This project is actually only half done, and I still have to make them into musical instruments. Stay tuned and I'll have that video ready in another, 6 months. Thanks again for watching.